Started as a luxury sedan and ended as Godzilla. This car is an icon around the world, a perennial star of video games and movies. The Nissan Skyline is the epitome of its generation. Who knows, maybe until now. In the late 90s, Japanese import culture exploded, and suddenly posters of JDM cars, or Japanese domestic vehicles, covered teenagers' walls all over the globe. Supras, RX-7s, MR2s, S2000s, Silvias, Integras, Civics, 350Zs, Evos. But for one, but for many, one car stuck out the most. A twin-turbo all-wheel drive. It looked like a beast on the road, and every car guy would kill to have one. This is everything you need to know about the Nissan Skyline GTR. The Nissan Skyline wasn't born a Nissan. It was made by Prince Motor Company. Who are they, you ask? After World War II, Prince Motor Company was mostly known for making electric cars. Yup, they already had electric cars back then. But in 1952, they moved away from the electric and they asked engineer Shinichiro Sakurai, the father of the Skyline, to create a luxury car to rival the European and American brands of the day. Over the next decade, the Skyline would undergo a number of iterations, as well as the Prince Company. In the year 1966, Prince was acquired by Nissan, and all of a sudden, the Skyline was a Nissan. Fun fact, Nissan wasn't always called Nissan. Before they rebranded to Nissan, their company was called Datsun. In 1969, the Skyline would get a bunch of modifications and a rebrand. The team working on the Skyline lengthened the nose, which means the hood, so that they could fit an S20 engine. What is an S20, you ask? Well, it's only a 6-cylinder 24-valve twin-cam triple two-barrel side draft. Badass. It's only made 160 horsepower at 7,000 RPM. And if you ask me, for that time, that was really fast. Yeah. Well, this was the birth of the Skyline Gran Turismo Racer, or Skyline GTR. As soon as the car was released, it went on a rampage among European and American cars, beating them on the touring car circuits. 3 years later, a second generation Skyline GTR was made, called the Ken Mary. Nissan wanted this car to have somewhat kind of an American vibe. So the car kind of looked like an American muscle car. But yeah, this was a legend. But unfortunately, all high-powered cars ate a lot of gas, and the gas crisis happened right after. So the GTR was quite off the grid for at least a decade. This is what made the GTR disappear, yeah, for about a decade. Here's where it's about to get real good. As the 80s struck, the gas crisis disappeared, the Japanese economy recovered, so Nissan got more money, hence, they were finally able to focus on the GTR brand. In 1989, the Skyline R32 GTR made its sweet debut. It had a straight 6-cylinder, 2 turbos, all-wheel steering, and 4-wheel drive. This is the beginning of the Skyline most of you guys know. This is the beginning of Godzilla. Fun fact, although the R32 was listed as having 289 brake horsepower, it really had closer to 320. This was part of the Gentleman's Agreement Act between all the Japanese brands to not brag about their power. Around the time the R32 debuted, drifting started to take over. And guess what? Nissan had a Skyline for that too. It was called the GTST. Basically a GTR, but with a rear wheel drive. which means it's good for drifting. It's good for skids. The 90s was the golden era of the Skylines. The R33 and the R34 only cemented its dominance of Godzilla on the streets. The changes between three generations was minimal. They lightened up the front end, improved structural rigidity, moved the battery to the back, and made the Hikers electric, and improved aerodynamics and cosmetics. Now this is the Skyline we fell in love with. This is the car that made it a legend. This is the reason for Brian O'Connor. This is what many people picture when you say GTR. During this time, Nissan made a number of low-volume, high-performance variants of the GTR. It's basically same exterior, but the engines were different. You had the RB20 engine, you had the RB26 engine, you had the R34 M spec and the R34 V spec, and the R34 V spec 2, which was for me one of the greatest because it was like at least 400 horsepower. It's a beast. Literally every car guy around the world wanted to get this car. They were importing it to the UK, to Australia, to New Zealand, and heck, even to the Philippines. But too bad for the US because they can't have one unless, well, if they're Paul Walker, because in the US it's illegal. I don't know why. I really don't know why. Okay. After nearly another decade of waiting, Nissan announced the GTR wasn't dead, and it was legal in all countries. Yeah, so US. So the US could breathe a little easy. And it was twin turboed, and it was all-wheel drive, but it's not a Skyline anymore. Yeah, in 2007, they released the 565 brake horsepower twin turbo V6 Nissan GTR R35, and it was amazing. Once again, the GTR proved that it was one of the best production car in the world, decimating supercars here and there. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.